Most men will go through their entire lives without ever understanding what women truly want. They will buy flowers, send long messages, and do everything society has told them to do, yet they will still end up confused, broken, and alone. They will keep wondering what went wrong. But 500 years ago, a man was living in exile, stripped of everything. He wrote down truths so dangerous that governments tried to burn these words. His name was Niccolo Machiavelli. What he discovered about human nature, and especially about female nature, was not pleasant to look at. It was not romantic, but it was real. Today, we are going to uncover this brutal truth, the one that most people are too afraid to say out loud. If you are not ready to have your view of the world challenged, leave now. But if you finally want to understand the game you have been losing for far too long, stay. After this, you will never see women, or yourself, the same way again. Let's be clear. This is not about hatred or disrespect. It is about understanding. Machiavelli was not a bitter man. He was a strategist. He studied power the way a surgeon studies anatomy. He was not interested in feelings. He was interested in patterns. He saw powerful men destroyed by the women they loved, and he saw cunning men thrive. Why? Because they understood one fundamental truth. People do not respond to what you say. They respond to what you represent. Machiavelli lived in Renaissance Italy, a world of betrayal and carefully calculated alliances. In that world, being naive meant losing your head, literally. He learned to see the world without comforting lies. And when you strip away those lies, you begin to see patterns. Patterns that are just as true today as they were in 1513. Let's begin with the first chapter, the illusion of kindness. If Machiavelli were alive today, he would tell you this: being nice is not a strategy, it is surrender. Don't be defensive. Listen carefully. There is nothing wrong with being kind. Kindness, when it comes from a position of strength, is one of the most attractive qualities a person can have. But that is not what most men do. Most men are nice because they are afraid of conflict, afraid of rejection. They smile when they want to argue. They say yes when they mean no. They bend over backward, hoping their submission will be rewarded with love. In his book, The Prince, Machiavelli wrote that it is much safer to be feared than to be loved. He was not talking about tyranny. He was talking about respect. People take kindness for granted. They always have. But they never take strength for granted. When a man has no backbone, a woman's mind perceives him as unsafe, not physically, but evolutionarily. Because a man who cannot stand up to his own partner will never be able to protect his family against the world. Women do not want a nice man. They want a strong man who is capable of being kind. That is a crucial difference. One is a choice, the other is a weakness. But if being nice does not work, what is the true currency in the game of power? Let's talk about what Machiavelli identified as the real currency of attraction. And no, it is not money. It is not your appearance. It is not even confidence. Not in the way most people understand it. It is power, but not the kind of power you are thinking of. Machiavelli defined power not as domination over others, but as mastery over yourself. The ability to control your emotions. The ability to walk away. The ability to sit in silence while the world around you screams for a reaction. That is power, and it is what fundamentally attracts women. Let me explain why. Machiavelli observed that fortune, which he described as a force of nature, favors the bold. He compared fortune to a flooding river. He said that the man who builds dams before the flood is the one who survives. Now apply that to relationships. The flood is emotional chaos. It is drama, tests, and uncertainty. Every relationship has them. And the man who remains unshaken during those floods, the man who does not fall apart, who does not beg, who does not lose his identity because someone raised their voice. That is the man who earns genuine, lasting attraction. Here is what most dating advice will never tell you. Women test men. They all do. It is not manipulation. It is not cruelty. It is biology. On a subconscious level, a woman needs to know whether the man she is with can handle pressure. Because if he cannot handle his partner's emotions, how will he handle the outside world? If he falls apart during a simple disagreement, what will happen when real adversity comes knocking? These tests take many forms. Sometimes it is silence. Sometimes it is an argument over something insignificant. Sometimes it is harmless flirting with someone else to see how you will react. And here's the key. The test is not about the content of the argument. It is about your response. If you react with panic, jealousy, or desperation, you fail. Not because your emotions are wrong, but because your reaction reveals a lack of inner stability. Machiavelli wrote that people judge more by what they see than by what they feel, because everyone can see, but few can perceive what lies beneath the surface. What he meant is that perception matters more than reality. A man who appears unshakable is treated that way, regardless of what he is truly feeling inside. And this is not about pretending. It is about training yourself to genuinely become the kind of man who does not crumble under pressure. Because when you do, something remarkable happens. You stop needing validation. And the moment you no longer need a woman's validation, that is when she begins to give it to you freely. This is the paradox that Machiavelli identified centuries ago. The less you chase approval, the more it chases you. Yet all of this strength is useless if you make one critical mistake, making her the center of your world. Because there is something even more important, a secret that, according to this philosophy, women desire above all else. Now we have talked about what does not work. We have defined the true currency of power. Now let's get to the heart of the matter. Let's uncover the core of what Machiavelli's philosophy reveals about what women truly want. Prepare yourself. Here is the raw, simple truth, one that can completely change the way you see the world. Women want a man with a mission. That's it. They want a man who has something in his life that matters more than they do. To some people, that may sound paradoxical, even cruel. But listen carefully to why. It is not because a woman wants to be neglected. It is not because she wants to feel unimportant. It is because a man with a mission is a man with direction. Such a man has his own gravity. He has a purpose. And having a purpose is, without question, one of the most attractive qualities a human being can possess. Machiavelli spent his life studying great leaders, and the pattern he found in every military commander, every empire builder, every man who inspired the loyalty of thousands, was a singular focus. These men did not sit around waiting for other people's approval. They did not build their lives around the expectations of those around them. They had a vision, and everything else, including love, revolved around that vision. Now look at what happens when you have no mission. You make her your mission. And the moment you do that, you have already lost. Why? Because no human being wants to be the sole reason another person lives. That is far too much pressure to carry. It is suffocating. And above all, it is deeply unattractive. When you make a woman the center of your universe, you communicate something devastating. You tell her that nothing meaningful was happening in your life before she arrived. You tell her that your life was empty, that you are incomplete without her. And nothing kills attraction faster than a man who feels incomplete. Machiavelli wrote that princes who became dependent on their allies instead of relying on their own strength were heading toward ruin. The same principle applies here. A man who becomes emotionally dependent on a woman, who bases his happiness on her mood, her attention, or her approval, has surrendered his power. And once you surrender your power, you rarely regain it with dignity. Now compare that to a man with a mission. He wakes up every morning with a purpose. He is building something. He is growing. He is moving toward a destination that inspires him. When he spends time with a woman, it is because he chooses to, not because he has nothing else to do. It is that choice that gives their time together value. It is that choice that makes her feel genuinely appreciated. She knows she is not filling a void. She knows she is joining a journey that is already underway and already meaningful. That is the foundation of Machiavellian attraction. You do not attract what you chase. You attract what you build. But be careful. Having a mission is essential. Yet you can still ruin everything if you make the most common and most destructive mistake during the first few weeks of getting to know someone. A mistake that destroys mystery and kills interest instantly. Here is another lesson from Machiavelli that modern men desperately need to hear. Mystery is not a childish dating game. It is a survival mechanism. Machiavelli warned rulers never to reveal their entire hand. He argued that a prince should appear merciful, faithful, humane, honorable, and religious, while remaining flexible enough to adapt whenever circumstances required it. If we take the politics out of that advice and look at it through the lens of relationships, the lesson becomes clear. Most men, the moment they start liking a woman, put everything on the table right away. Their feelings, their insecurities, their entire life story, their childhood trauma, their detailed plans for the future. They believe that immediate vulnerability is the same as connection, and that is a fatal mistake. In the early stages of getting to know someone, revealing everything is social suicide. Here is why. Human beings are wired to value what they have to work for. In psychology, this is known as the effort heuristic. The more effort you invest in understanding something, the more valuable it becomes in your eyes. When you tell someone everything about yourself during the very first week, you eliminate the process of discovery. You remove the mystery that makes her think about you at 2 a.m. In reality, you hand her the entire book of your life and say, "Here, you don't even have to read it. I've already told you how it ends." And what does she do with that book? She puts it on the shelf and forgets about it. Not because the story was bad, but because there is no longer any reason to open it. She already knows the ending. The book has no more suspense. Machiavelli understood that people are drawn to what they cannot fully grasp. The leaders who maintained an air of unpredictability were the ones who held on to power the longest. Why? Because when people cannot predict you, they are forced to pay attention to you. And attention is the essential precursor to attraction. That does not mean you should lie. It does not mean you should be cold or emotionally unavailable. It means you should reveal yourself in layers, like the plot of a great movie. Share enough to create interest, but always leave enough for her to want more. Reveal your depth gradually. Make every conversation feel like the unveiling of a fascinating secret. The men who do this naturally, the ones who do not over-explain themselves, the ones who do not seek validation by sharing their feelings too soon, are the men women describe as magnetic. They cannot quite explain why. They simply know they want to learn more. This is not manipulation. It is applied human psychology, and Machiavelli was a master of it. Maintaining mystery is essential. But that brings us to the question that drives all the nice guys crazy. The question you ask yourself when you see a woman choose a man who seems bad for her. Why do they choose dangerous men? Machiavelli's answer may surprise you. It is time to address the uncomfortable subject, the question that drives nice guys mad. Why do women so often choose men who seem bad for them? Men who are unreliable, men who are emotionally unavailable, even men who are destructive. It is the puzzle that pushes many men toward bitterness. Yet Machiavelli, without ever writing directly about romantic relationships, gave us the perfect answer. In his most famous work, The Prince, Machiavelli wrote a line that has become well known. Fortune is a woman, and if you wish to master her, it is necessary to strike and overpower her. Today, that quote is often taken out of context. Machiavelli was not advocating physical cruelty. He was using the language of his time to express a crucial philosophical idea: boldness over passivity. His argument was simple. Fortune, meaning luck, opportunity, and success, favors those who act decisively, those who hesitate, those who always play it safe, those who wait for the perfect moment. Those people are eventually crushed by circumstances. The man who moves forward boldly, even if he makes mistakes, commands his destiny in a way that the cautious man will never experience. Now apply that to relationships. The so-called dangerous man is not attractive because he is cruel. He is attractive because he is decisive. He does not ask for permission to live his life. He does not wait for a woman to tell him what to do or how to feel. He moves with absolute certainty, whether he is right or wrong. He acts. And that momentum, that raw drive of a man who trusts himself enough to take action, is simply intoxicating. The nice guy, by contrast, is always waiting. He waits for the right moment. He waits for a signal. He waits for permission. And while he is waiting, the bold man has already crossed the room. He has already introduced himself. He has already created a memorable moment, not because he is better, but because he is braver. In reality, women do not want danger for its own sake. They want a man who is not afraid of danger. They want a man who walks toward challenges instead of away from them. In a world filled with uncertainty, that energy is like a lighthouse in a storm. It signals the strength to protect and to lead. When you look at so-called bad boys through this lens, you realize they are not chosen because of questionable morals. They are chosen because they appear fearless. They project a confidence that says, "I can handle whatever comes." Machiavelli's lesson is clear. Stop being so cautious. Stop overthinking. Stop trying to calculate the perfect move. Act, move, decide. Even if you make a mistake, a decision made with confidence is 1,000 times more attractive than no decision at all because of fear. Acting decisively makes you magnetic. But there is an even higher level of power, a quality so rare and so impressive that it makes the man who possesses it absolutely unforgettable. This is where most men fail completely. We now arrive at the most important chapter. This is where the majority of men fail, and where Machiavelli's wisdom strikes with the greatest force. The ultimate power in any relationship is not seduction. It is not money. It is the ability to walk away.